So Nick Holloway owns Nunu, which is a highly celebrated restaurant in far North Queensland. He's also been a guest celebrity chef on the hit TV series Masterchef. Twice. Pull up a seat, grab a cheeky Reid, as he explains how this came about and what it's done for his business. Hey, before we immerse ourselves in episode 373 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, the marketing gold is made possible thanks to Cornerstone and 52ways.biz. Now, 52ways.biz is a free one-day live event hosted by small business legend Dale Beaumont for business owners who want to grow. You can grab your free tickets over at 52ways.biz, and there's some new dates announced for a second round in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane in late August. And we're also made possible thanks to Cornerstone, which is an Aussie-owned, family-run outsourcing business based in the Philippines. In fact, I love what they're doing for small business owners so much, I own part of the company. If you need help getting stuff done without spending a fortune, call Cornerstone on 02 9037 8275.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show, where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner. You're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. That's why you're here, and that is exactly what we do around here. Big show today. We catch up with Nick Holloway of the much-awarded Nunu restaurant in far North Queensland. Now, amongst other things, Nick talks about the impact appearing on one of Australia's biggest TV franchises in Masterchef has had on his personal and business brands. I share another low-cost marketing idea that'll get you more customer love than you'll know what to do with. Resident techspert Dale Beaumont from 52ways.biz, he shares a pretty cool productivity tip. And we go back into the Small Business Big Marketing vault to revisit a rather inspiring episode with a business owner who had her product featured at this year's Oscars. How good's that? As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Now, I know many of you enjoyed hearing from last week's guest, Peter Baines. Wasn't he good? Who explained how, as business owners, we should and can do good by doing good. Well, Pete's organising and speaking at an event called The Future of Leadership, which is happening around Australia in September. And it's a full day with some world-class speakers, all speaking for free, and 100% of all profits go to Pete's Thailand-based charity, Hands Across the Water. I'm going to go. You should too. Grab a seat over at futureofleadership.com.au. Righto. Now, what is next?
Life just got a whole lot easier.
Hi, it's Dale Beaumont here from 52ways.biz, the best one-day business workshop ever, with another productivity tool to make your business life a whole lot easier. So what is the tool that I have for you today? Well, it's called Name Check, and check is spelled CHK, and the URL is namecheck, that's chk.com. Now, this tool is used to see if a business name is largely available, to see if you're able to secure it as a domain. So obviously you want to get the .com, .net, maybe .com.au, and maybe for protection the .co or .biz. And this one tool will tell you where that domain name is available, so you can register all the most popular ones. But it also goes a step further, and it will actually show you whether that username can be used For social media accounts, so is it available on Facebook? Is it available on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Google+? And if you're into e-commerce, maybe you want to make sure it's available on eBay as well. Well, this one service can be used to basically check the quality of a new name to see if it's available, both for domain names, but also for social media accounts as well. So before you go register your next business name, check out Namecheck. You'll be glad that you did. There you go. I told you life would get a whole lot easier. This has been Dale Beaumont from 52ways.biz. Now, back to you, Timbo.
Life just got a whole lot easier.
Hey, thanks, Dale. Namecheck is a great tip. Having all your social media handles matching your business name is simply great branding, and that's one thing Namecheck does very well. It's not always possible, but great if you can get it. Hey, if you're loving the productivity tools Dale's sharing, then you're going to love his upcoming live events. 8 hours of solid business building gold happening around Australia and New Zealand in August. You can grab a free ticket for you and a mate or two over at 52ways.biz. That's 52ways.biz. Coming up after today's interview, I'll share another low-cost marketing idea that will get you a little bit more customer love. But right now, let's meet today's successful business owner, who is Master Chef Nick Holloway of Nunu. Now, I met Nick a few weeks ago in the middle of a cane field between Cairns and Port Douglas. As you do, he was cooking for 600 plumbers and electricians as part of a conference for the Laser Group, at which I was a keynote speaker. Now, Nick owns an amazing restaurant called Nunu in Palm Cove, far North Queensland. Not only is it ideally located right on the sand, it's also highly awarded with accolades including being ranked in Gourmet Traveller's top 100 Australian restaurants for 6 years running. Nick knows what he's doing when it comes to running a business, and particularly a restaurant, in a pretty crowded marketplace. Nick himself is a passionate foodie, so much so that he was chosen, to be a guest chef on the top-rating reality cooking show Masterchef for the past 2 years. Now, what that did for his personal and business brands, well, you're about to find out. He's also a stickler for creating an unforgettable customer experience and a brand that people love and talk about for years to come, topics we cover in great depth during our chat. In the cutthroat world of hospitality, Nick's list of achievements is impressive. So, as is my wont, I started off by asking him if he thought the seminal dish of the 1970s, the seafood cocktail, would ever make a comeback.
Do I actually believe that? I think there will be somewhat of a renaissance with classical technique and cuisine. I think that things move in cycles and we're always reinventing ourselves. You know, taking a little bit of the past forward as we to create new things and referencing the past.
Yeah, you make a good point. Everything is a cycle. The old I laugh because the seafood cocktail reminds me of my mum and dad. I think they would have a sherry, and then if they were, if Dad had a win on the races, we'd go out and have a seafood cocktail.
I think that in itself, though, is something that I hold very dear to my heart. I like nostalgia, not so much that it slows you down or holds you back, but I think that it's important to be connected to those things. And that's what I love so much about the hospitality industry.
That's really interesting because I sometimes jokingly say there's no such thing as a new idea. Do you find that when conceptualising new dishes that you're referring back all the time?
Yeah. Look, I think there's guys out there who are really paving new sort of ground with regards to that sort of creativity. But like I said, I like to have nod to the past and keep an eye on what's happening sort of in popular culture and what's happening culturally right now. I mean, the nuts and bolts of it for me don't change. It's all about hospitality and it's about generosity. And those things don't change irrespective of what you're cooking it or how you're cooking it, really.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let's talk how you express yourself doing that with Nunu. How did you go from studying engineering and science to becoming, I'll go as far as saying a celebrity chef?
Well, I'm not sure about celebrity, but in roundabout ways. And it's funny, someone asked me in the kitchen today, would I ever want my kids to take up, to follow in my footsteps, so to speak. And I only wouldn't want them to do that because I want them to find their own footsteps. And I thought that I was doing the right thing by pursuing a professional career. Both my parents are pharmacists, and I thought that that's just what you do. You do well in maths and science, and not that I was ever forced in any way. That was the way the world operated.
Right.
And I found myself really at odds with that environment, and it wasn't satisfying at all. And I'm a bit of a headstrong lad, or I certainly was more so then, and was determined to sort of have my cake and eat it too, so to speak. And I wanted to have fun and enjoy what I did. I mean, I respect the fact that we have to work to make a living, to get on with the rest of our lives. But it seemed to me so redundant, this idea that I'd work so hard for something I didn't enjoy.
Good on you. I mean, many wouldn't have the courage to make that. How old were you when you made that decision?
19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I just really wanted to do something else, and I thought I would be an artist. I did quite well in sort of arts at school as well, and in a roundabout way, I found my way into a kitchen. And it was when I first worked in a kitchen. It was a crazy place in North Melbourne in Victoria, with a Swedish chef who threw the fry pans at the scullery wall, and they bounced into the sink and slopped me in grease and soapy water. And the thing I liked the most about it was it really did tick so many of the boxes that I find stimulating and rewarding in life. It's physical, it's intellectually demanding, there's so much camaraderie. A lot of the social barriers don't exist. There's no gender, there's no age, there's no... It's like a band of pirates, and everyone mucks in together. And there's almost a military aspect about it too. There's a certain order in the chaos, and I just find it really is profoundly satisfying.
And highly creative.
And highly creative, and creative in a way that is transient. Like it doesn't last. You can constantly reinvent yourself. Architects build buildings and they last forever until they crumble down. And the great thing about being a cook is you can reinvent yourself every few minutes, really.
Yeah. Tell me about creativity. It's a discussion that I plan to have on this show. In fact, I continue to look for an advertising person to, answer the question, where do ideas come from? But for you, and we talked about the past and we talked about nostalgia, but, we've got small business owners listening to this who are looking for the next headline for their press ad or for their email marketing campaign or something to say on Facebook. Where do your ideas come from?
Yeah, it's funny. I have actually thought about that a lot, and I can only say for myself that really it's about exposure. So you need to put yourself into an environment where you're exposed to the opportunity to be inspired, be that through media sources or social organisations, peer group type stuff, and then through that exposure, I think, comes interpretation, or that's the way I think of it. I think that you expose yourself to a whole bunch of new ideas, and then you interpret that environment. So that's the way the stimulation works.
Mate, I like that. So do you then? You must actively say, okay, I'm in an environment. There are ideas around here. Do you actively capture them in like a notepad, a journal? What do you do?
Yeah, I do. I write everything down. I write a list every single day, and I think I have my mother's pretty OCD, and every single day I write myself a list on a folded piece of A4 paper, long ways, and I put it in my back pocket and I write stuff down. And every day I rewrite what I didn't achieve on today's list on tomorrow's list. And I find the process of documentation to be... it helps to bed down those ideas and helps you to flesh it out, and just gives you a way of kind of keeping a record of where you're up to. Not that I keep any of these things or I file them, but I think the process of writing stuff down is very, very important.
Nick, there's no one listening, mate. Just tell me, do you get a bit of a tightening of the sphincter when you cross something off that list?
Do you know, sometimes I even write things on so I can cross them off.
So do I.
I can't help myself.
You say your mum's OCD. I think you might be kind of hiding behind your mum there, mate. I love it. I think we're all on that spectrum. Love it. Nothing wrong with that. So, okay, love the idea. conceptualisation, explaining where the ideas come from. So you hop on a plane in 2004, having worked in some pretty good restaurants in Melbourne under some pretty big names at the time. You hop on a plane with a one-way ticket, you and your partner, and head to Cairns. What were you thinking? Were you running away from something?
No, I think we were running towards something. You know, I think that the city had run its race for me for a little for that period of time. I'd lived in, you know, I'm originally a country boy, grew up in East Gippsland in Victoria, very small town, and as a young man growing up, felt that claustrophobia of sort of small town life, and couldn't wait for the anonymity of the city. Couldn't wait to just, you know, live out this crazy life that I thought I should or wanted to have. But after a while, I don't know if I knew this at the time, but I'm sure subconsciously it played a major factor, because I've referenced back to it so many times since then, that I've actually found myself in the full circle of things back where I started, in terms of the fact that it's a small little town with country values and regional sort of community values. I like having tangible relationships. I found that my cooking and my people skills just went through the roof once I found myself back in an environment like this. You know, when you cook in the city, everything comes to you second and third hand, and it may be the best of the best of the best, but there's something lost in translation, like Chinese whispers. And I think that for me, I can better communicate things, my environment, if I'm having those real one-on-one relationships. For me, it's very, very important, and that is actually the cornerstone of what cooking's all about. It's about relationships, about people, you know, and I'm a people person.
Interesting. So you're running towards something. Just describe for us, because there's people from all over the world listening. You are in a beautiful part of far North Queensland called Palm Cove. So
yes, very idyllic.
It is ideal. I mean, it is kind of like, it's cliche city, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Turquoise waters, palm trees.
And my restaurant currently sits with no road and absolute beach frontage. So it's a deck, it's a lawn, it's fans spinning, and then it's sand, palm trees, and ocean. Oh. And that's incredibly beautiful and inspiring in itself. It's such a dramatic landscape, far North Queensland. I think that the mountains and the temperature and the way things grow in such a sort of vivid way is just amazing for me. I love it. You
have Nunu, your restaurant hasn't been in that location its entire life, has it?
No. I moved the business 4 years ago now. We're in the fourth year, and that was a real turning point and extremely instrumental, I think, in our current cycle of successes. In that it gave us a chance to reevaluate who we are and to relaunch ourselves in some ways. I think still maintaining the essence of the brand, but sort of revitalising it, refreshing it, and bringing it up to speed with everyone else around us. And that also gives the media, who are extremely helpful to promote your voice further than it reaches just on its own, an excuse to come and check us out again. And I think that's you don't want to be a slave to it, but never look a gift horse in the mouth, that's for sure. Did
you know that was going to happen when you moved 4 years ago, or did you move because the lease had run out or something?
No, I moved because we were on our knees, basically.
Wow.
It was after the GFC hit, and we were... And it's an interesting story that I kind of touched on with you the other day. The cornerstone of the Nunu brand when we moved up here initially was all about we were going to move to this perfect tropical location and sell luxury. And luxury being that you would, like an extended spa treatment, lay on the couch all day, eat beautiful food, and drink wine, and be seduced by the swaying palms. Mm-hmm. And that kind of luxury environment was great at first, but after the GFC, it really was at odds with the marketplace. And whilst we still had some very, very, very loyal customers, the entire pie shrunk, and so our slice of the pie became basically untenable. There just wasn't enough cash flow to make the whole thing work, and we just didn't know what we were going to do. We thought we were a bit of a dinosaur, and maybe it was time to fold it all up and turn it into an events company or something. And then sort of through that process of looking after people and building relationships, which of course in turn leads to opportunities. One of my great customers at the time is now of sorts my landlord, and said, would you be interested in moving the restaurant? And I didn't really know how to start that whole process. I just knew that if you kept putting yourself in an environment where things could or might happen, they do.
Wow.
And what we did was we said, okay, well, let's up and move this thing. I don't know if you've ever moved house before, but I can guarantee moving a business is more traumatic.
Yeah, I don't know about that, mate. I moved house about 6 weeks ago, and I'm still recovering. So that's interesting. So you're on your knees. GFC hits. You're on your knees. You're looking it in the face, the business in the face, going, "Look, it's been pretty good to us. Is it time to kind of wrap things up and, as you say, turn it into an events company?" Moving to this location where you are, it sounds like a location that money can't buy. But clearly, this client, this customer of yours, has cut you a deal and breathed life into helping you take the brand to the next level?
Absolutely, and it was a massive risk. I mean, we went balls deep on that one, but it was just massive risk.
Can I ask why? Why? Because that location. Well, actually, two things on that. I could cite a number of examples of restaurants that have amazing locations that serve the worst food I've ever had. I won't name names. It just there is a principle around that. Someone needs to give it a name. But
you're right. I don't know what you call that syndrome, but it's true.
Oh man, is it ever? But clearly, you're saying it was a risk, maybe because you had that syndrome in the back of your mind. Oh, hang on, we've got the best location in Australia. We'll have to start serving, bad food. Yep. But where was the risk?
Financially, like we had to, financially it was a risk, and also just the emotional energy required to move is massive. So I suppose the risk to our personal relationships, our risk to our the fact that I'm in a partnership at work as well, our business relationships were all strained already, and moving can be the bit that breaks you. So, and also because it's hard to. I find the difficult thing with moving a hospitality venue is that so much of hospitality comes down to efficiency of what you do, the economy of movements, and how, the better you can do things in terms of receive goods, process goods, sell goods, move them through the dining room, bring customers in and out, the more fluid, the more beautiful the system becomes. There's my OCD kicking in again. But, when you first start in a new venue, everything's different. I mean, just the simplest things become incredibly difficult. Just how does the feng shui of the doorway work? How does it work when customers come in? What do we do when we we hit the ground running, because there's all this newfound interest or rediscovered interest in what we were doing. So we hit the ground running and trying to solve all of these micro problems at the same time. Not to mention the fact that the business itself went from a little core staff of, say, 15 of us up to 80 pretty much overnight. So it was very, very taxing.
I'm sorry, 15 staff to 80 overnight?
Almost, yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much. Because we opened we live in a seasonal part of the world, so we opened at the busy season, and normally there was processes in place to be able to absorb that new staff, the new workforce, and teach them at the same time. But this was just stretched to the max.
Wow, so many questions, Nick, so little time. You have got, how do you, because I know you're big on customer experience, and restaurants,
absolutely,
great restaurants, so I think are a great example to all types of businesses to show us how to create great customer experiences, how to create brands that are different to others. And I'm interested to know how you and your partner go about saying, okay, this is the experience every single person must have when they come to Nunu, and how do you get not 15 staff, how do you get 80 staff to buy into that?
Yeah, well, that I wish I had the answer.
Well, maybe you don't. Maybe
I don't. I do know that we are a little more fluid than that, and we don't. Our customer base is quite diverse. And if I think about who my customer is, inverted commas, it's more than one. It's more than one type, and I think it's understanding, doing your best to understand what are all of those types. So some of my customers are clearly destinational. They, they've read the Instagram and they've heard all about it through other people, and they're desperate to come and be part of the experience. Some of my other customers are locals who just want to have a nice fancy night out, or they might want to celebrate a birthday. Some people are on holiday and feeding themselves, but they want to go to the luxury place to do it. And when I say luxury, I'm not talking about marble and gold. I'm talking about a sort of barefoot luxury, an everyday luxury. Luxury built around, again, relationships and quality of ingredients and quality of communication. Sophisticated but not pretentious.
Interesting.
So how to communicate that to everyone? I suppose like this, we have lots and lots of staff meetings, lots of small teams, like the whole workforce is broken down into teams. Each of those teams has team leaders. I think that you don't want to live your life in a meeting, but I think that to constantly reinforce what those brand ideals are about, like remind everyone, it's easy to kind of get onto the treadmill and forget about what it is you're trying to do. Particularly in kitchens, or hospitality environments where those processes are repeated day after day after day after day after day, it can almost become like a trance, and you can forget about the fact that this is someone's very special occasion, that someone might have saved a lot of money to be here, right here today. I think being in the moment, being present, is probably the most important thing.
Mate, that is music to my ears to hear you say that, because you're right. I mean, there would be very well-heeled people walking into Nunu and other luxury, I use the quote marks, restaurants around the world. But there'd also be people who have, this is a really, really big treat for them, and their expectations are high. So to give the same experience to both and to have them both walk out feeling satisfied it must be just a massive challenge.
Yeah, and profoundly satisfying.
No doubt.
I want to, and so does my business partner, make people happy. I think that's why you get into it in the first place. It's certainly not because of the fame or the fortune. You do it because there is something about the way you're made up that you'd like to make people happy and help grease the wheels of community and social engagements.
Listeners, I'm talking to Nick Holloway, who is the head chef and co-founder of a beautiful restaurant in Palm Cove in far North Queensland called Nunu. He's also, let's talk Masterchef. Are you a Masterchef or you are a guest Masterchef?
I was very much a guest. So
2
I've been
years
on the
running.
show twice. What's that, mate?
2 years running.
Yeah, 2 years running. I was on the show. The first year I went down as part of an immunity challenge where they had their kind of winner of another challenge go up against me in a cook-off, which I have to say was possibly one of the most terrifying things I've done professionally. It was just really full on, very, very much high stakes.
Bit of self-doubt creep in, mate?
Beg your pardon?
Bit of self-doubt, bit of imposter syndrome creep in?
Absolutely. And I couldn't help but feel from the outset that I was a sacrificial lamb. Sent down from the end of the line up here in Cairns to go down so they could beat someone, and in say I'm led to believe that may well have been the case actually in the first instance. So I later found out through the editor, but I think again,
did you win?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
What's winning? I think I told myself beforehand when I initially said no, and my wife said, "Oh yes, you are," that winning had nothing to do with the score sheet. Winning was coming across as the sort of person that people are attracted to, and not doing it at my slavishly or at my own expense, but doing it. My mantra going down there was, you must lose gracefully. This is a fun. Remind myself of what's happening. This is a midweek high-rating television show for families, essentially. So be a nice guy.
Come on, mate, toughen up. It's all about the score sheet. Now,
of course, I didn't want to lose, but I mean,
exactly.
But it was also. But look, I think initially I was very, very scared by the environment. Whilst I've done heaps of television before and other media type stuff, it really is a pressure cooker situation. I mean, I hadn't been in the actual, they shoot it at the showgrounds. Hadn't been in there before. There's God knows how many cameras and staff and. The whole time they're trying to rev you up into this sort of emotional state that your reputation's on the line, and you've got to pull out all the stops, and then it's live. I mean, it really is shot in real time.
They're really having those conversations with, like, the producer or the director.
Absolutely.
Kind of, wow.
Absolutely. Mic'd up. They said, right, we're going in 10 seconds. You better not stuff this up, mate. And then you push the doors open, and that's it. You go.
That's pretty much how I talk to a lot of my guests, as you know, before hitting the record button on interviews. Hey, I'm interested from a marketing perspective. So first of all, how did it come about? How did you become a guest chef on the biggest cooking show in Australia?
I got the phone call from the executive producer, Tim Tonys, but I suppose I'd been heard of around the traps. I'd also met Matt Preston many times in the old days at Pearl when I worked there as head chef, and he would come in very regularly to the restaurant. So it may be, I think that opportunity comes from relationships. So somewhere along the line, I've said something to someone and ended up in the mix. And then I had a Skype interview or two, and they said, right, let's do this.
Can we just, there's the marketing gold, opportunity comes from relationships. You're right. I mean, you probably weren't over the previous months and years, laying foundations with your fingers crossed, hoping you were going to be on MasterChef, but
absolutely,
are you actively sort of, you're networking, you're out there creating partnerships, knowing that one day something's going to trigger and something good will happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the very premise of luck, really, that you foster relationships first. You foster relationships. From relationships comes opportunity. From opportunity, you need to then have be able to interpret which of those opportunities best serves you and the person offering it. How is it mutually beneficial? How does it suit your brand, personal or professional? And then you need the courage and the gut instinct to do it. And you've got to actually, those key moments present themselves. Well, you need to create an environment for them to present themselves. But when they do, you've got to have the stones to actually have a crack.
I love
Be
that,
prepared
mate.
to lose.
I had the founder, Brian Smith of Ugg Boots, on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about this, where, the universe doesn't have the ability to physically tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, listen, now's the time. We've got to kind of be attuned to the fact that we are being tapped on the shoulder and now is the time, right? And have the courage to acknowledge it.
Absolutely. And it's not going to happen sitting on the couch.
Correct. So I'm interested. So you get on MasterChef. I'm interested to know what it did for your personal brand and your business brand. One thing that amuses me, I've heard you say that you find it funny the amount of validation you were given once you'd appeared on a national TV program, despite the fact that for years you'd been winning awards and creating great experiences at Nunu.
Absolutely, and I suppose it gives you the smallest glimmer or the insight into what it must be like to be celebrity. I mean, it's just amazing, this canonising process, that if you're on the telly in people's lounge room, somehow you've legitimised everything you've done. It's just amazing. I went from relative obscurity in my small town to the day after it was on telly, I had a standing ovation when I dropped the kids at school.
Oh, that's gold.
It's hilarious. The day before, I think someone honked their horn and told me to get out of the way. But, and the same goes for the dining room. It's funny that if you, prior to being having that experience on MasterChef, if a customer waits in the dining room or if something goes not quite the way we want it to, then they're very quick to point out how you have failed them in some way. Yet after the TV experience, all of a sudden people almost relish the fact that something that they had to wait or something didn't go the way they planned it to. It's almost like it absolves you somehow from some amount of blame. It's hilarious.
So post MasterChef, Nick, you're the same Nick Holloway, but
absolutely.
others know in their mind that you're not, that you're different, right?
Yeah.
Do you acknowledge that and try and be someone you're not, or are you still everything you've ever been?
I tell you what's interesting is that I never try to be someone I'm not. It's something that I strongly believe in. But I also recognise that, let's say someone comes into the dining room, someone comes to the restaurant, and you can tell they're a fanny type person. There's nothing wrong with giving someone a photograph if that's what they want to do.
Totally.
You know, and there's a younger version of me that would have run for the hills and said, no way, you know, I'm not subscribing to that. But it's absolutely no issue for me to go out there and say good day to a kid or take have a photo. Not that it happens all the time, but it does. It happens enough, and it helps give a bigger version of their experience.
Correct.
Why wouldn't I want to do that?
What else has being on MasterChef done for your business, Nick? I imagine bookings went through the roof and have levelled off at a high spot.
And continue to do so, absolutely.
Yeah. How amazing.
Yeah, and look, it's amazing. It's just the sheer exposure. I mean, you couldn't... What would an ad cost on at 8:30 on prime time midweek? I mean, and I was on TV for 26 minutes.
Wow, a couple of million people.
Yeah, you just could. It would be almost impossible to afford an ad of that length. Yeah, but it has a profound effect, and people remember it. You know, people remember stuff like that, and they might not come immediately, and that's something that's quite interesting about where my restaurant's located, being so far sort of out of the way, I suppose, is that if you were in the city and that experience happened, the feedback loop's almost immediate, so everyone would come the next day or the day after that. Whereas being so far away, often people plan their holidays, and a holiday might not be for 6 months. So we have this kind of feedback loop where things are happening kind of out of time with when they're actually happening.
Yeah. Has there been a downside?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of. I mean, good. It's just positive trade. People want they want to be part of it, and then the busier. Look, you don't want to be so busy you can't manage. But there just needs to be systems in place so that you can manage things like that.
Love it, buddy. Well, you're onto something, clearly, with Nunu. I loved the experience. You and I met in a cane field that was set fire to.
Event.
That was an amazing event. Past guest Steve Keel put that on with the laser group, and you cooked for just a lazy 600 people out in the middle of a cane field, which was subsequently set on fire, as you do. So,
as you do in far North Queensland.
Correct. Is that something that you are moving into? You are doing these off-site catering extravaganzas?
Yeah, absolutely. And that you've just touched on something there, which is, I think, been crucial to our success over the last 3 or 4 years, and also with the venue where it is that we've been able to kind of diversify our offerings, and by doing that, we create demand back on ourselves in a feedback loop. So the fact that there we have a media presence means that we have, the advertisement or the draw card to be able to do these big corporate events and big off-site event type stuff, which creates a revenue stream, which is obviously more profitable than day-to-day a la carte service, and that helps keep the restaurant afloat and alive and vibrant, like financially. Yeah. But then you need one to give the other. They have to feed back into each other. The restaurant by itself, I don't think, would be significant enough, and I don't think the events company, part of Nunu, would exist without the fact that there's bricks and mortar, a flagship restaurant, to kind of trade off the equity in that business.
Nick, I'll be up in Port Douglas in a few months' time, and I will be knocking on the door for that seafood cocktail, mate. So get the creative juices flowing.
I might have it on by then.
I'm expecting it. Call it the Timbo cocktail or something. I'd be honoured. Hey, thanks, buddy, for sharing some fantastic insights, and wishing you all the success going forward.
Oh, thanks so much, Jim. It's been a pleasure.
Well, there you go. Masterchef Nick Holloway from Nunu. What a good fella. Coming up, I'm going to share my top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Nick. Plus, I've got another low-cost marketing idea for you. But first, I'd love to tell you about a simple way to get a whole lot more done in your business with a whole lot less. As you probably know by now, I'm a big proponent of offshoring to the Philippines any process-driven tasks that are costing you a fortune to get done locally. Data entry, inbound and outbound calling, appointment setting, SEO, website and social media management. I'm sure your list goes on and on and on. Consider getting yourself a virtual assistant at Cornerstone. I've got one and he's a complete game changer, freeing me up to focus 100% on creating great content for you whilst he looks after almost everything else. I know some of you have fears and reservations around this way of building your business. That's why Cornerstone have a no-brainer offer they call the Outsourcing Accelerator Program. It removes most of the risk from what should be a very exciting next step in growing that beautiful business of yours. The upfront investment is a one-off refundable $1,500 deposit, which covers 4 months of training and induction whilst your new VA starts work immediately in your business, plus their monthly salary, which ranges from between $700 and $1,000. To see if this is right for you, book a no-obligation feasibility assessment with owner David Warren now on 029037 8275 or visit cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au. Now, back to the show. My top 3 attention grabbers from that chat with Nick Holloway from Nunu, thanks to 52ways.biz and Cornerstone. Attention grabber number 1. Opportunities come from relationships. Great advice from Nick. So spend time nurturing and building as many relationships as you can. If you want a place to start, then revisit that idea I shared recently about never eating alone. Quite appropriate, given we just spoken to a top chef. I'll drop a link to that blog post in the show notes. Attention grabber number 2. I find Nick's amusement at the validation he got from being on Masterchef quite amusing. Getting a little media coverage can be so powerful, as I'm finding out right now, having started a radio segment on 58 radio stations around Australia, as I spoke about a couple of weeks ago. So look for opportunities. You could start by simply calling talkback radio stations and contributing to topics of interest. Plus, I've dropped a link to a past interview in the show notes for this episode, in which media ninja Sam Elam shared some great tips on getting free earned media coverage. And attention grabber number 3, run towards things, not away from them. Great quote from Nick. You know, stepping on that plane, I thought he was actually running away from something when he left Melbourne all those years ago, but he was running towards something. That's a glass half full right there. What grabbed your attention? Let me know. Smoke signal will be fine. Carry a pigeon, or head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/373.
What have you got to lose?
It's time for one blindingly simple yet effective marketing idea that won't cost you a fortune and that might just generate you more awareness, more inquiry, and ultimately more sales. I call today's idea the "tell me how much you love me" hack. We all like to be told we're doing a good job, right? Well, why not seek out a bit of customer love and help future prospects make a more informed purchase decision at the same time? Like testimonials, reviews are great tools to use when you need to tackle any fears or objections your prospects may have when deciding whether or not to do business with you. One mistake a lot of business owners make is they don't ever think to actually ask people to write reviews. Instead, they just assume it will happen naturally. Sometimes it does, but smart business owners don't wait for people to leave reviews. They ask them. And guess what? They get them. So here's my 3 steps to getting a little more love from those precious customers of yours. Step 1, make a list of happy customers you can reach out to. You could also create a list of influential bloggers and podcasters willing to review your product or service. Step 2, set up profiles on sites that people can go to when they're ready to leave you a review. For any type of business, this could be Google Reviews, LinkedIn or Facebook. If you're a cafe owner, then Zomato is good. or you could create a form on your own website. Step 3, reach out to people on your lists and see who's willing to leave a review. You can decide whether or not to create an incentive as a way to encourage participation. And here's the pro tip, team. As you start to get a nice little stockpile of reviews, be sure to actively use them. Add them to your website, include them on proposals, email them to individual prospects who may have raised a particular concern. It might just get them across the line. There you go. That's my 3 steps to getting and using customer reviews. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/373, where you'll find a link to this post plus some additional resources to bring this idea to life, including everything you need to know about Google reviews, 7 more creative ways to get customers to leave reviews, and an online review request page from a carpet cleaning business. So, what have you got to lose? Whew, we made it. Well, nearly. That almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show, but don't worry, plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead, including a photographer who got tired of taking photos and is now running a completely different business of his dreams. Plus, we catch up with a legend of the promotional products industry in Australia, a discussion which I've been wanting to have for a long time. I've also got some big news on an upcoming guest. Just dotting the T's, crossing the I's. I don't know, you know what I mean. But I've got some big news for an upcoming guest, which I'm pretty excited about. I'll announce in the next couple of weeks. Hey, recently I had a fireside chat with another successful business owner, Cara Lauder, founder of the Cater Boot Company. Now, whilst pregnant with her second child and working in the mines of the Pilbara, Cara has managed to find time to launch what she believes will be Australia's best Western boots company, which were recently featured at the Oscars.
We ended up getting so much marketing in Australia out of it, free marketing, just because we were going to the event, which made it worthwhile before we even left Australia. So, they found us on Instagram, the company that runs the gifting suites. And
at the Oscars?
At the day before the Oscars, yes. Right. So all the celebrities are in LA anyway, ready to go to the Oscars, and so they spend their days going around to different gifting suites. And, so we went to one, and we were told we were the most popular stall there by just about every celebrity that came up to talk to us.
That is such a great story. If you ever wanted some clever launch ideas for a new product, service or business, then that is the episode to listen to. You'll find the full interview with Cara plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or you can subscribe free on your favourite podcast catcher. Hey, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, tim@timreid, reid.com.au, or you can join the Small Business Big Marketing Facebook page. Be sure to grab your free seat at Dale Beaumont's 52 Ways events that are touring Australia and New Zealand in August this year. Just go to 52ways.biz and grab your tickets. I was going to say your teats, but that would be seats, if you know what I mean. Plus, if your to-do list is freaking you out, then it's time to start building that team in the Philippines. So give Cornerstone's David Warner buzz on 0290378275 or visit cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au. Finally, if you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, and why wouldn't you, then let another business owner know about it. Grab their phone, open the podcast app, download it for them. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.